is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're speaking to Taylor Handley, who plays Kyle McLusky on Mayor of Kingstown. The show follows the McLusky family in Kingstown, Michigan, where the business of incarceration is the only thriving industry. The family of power brokers between police, criminals, inmates, prison guards, and politicians tackle themes of systematic racism, corruption, and inequality. So to talk about what fans can expect for season 2, here's Taylor Handley. I want to talk about so many things, but I'm going to start off first with, I've done a ton of research. So I know that you started super young, like I think it was like 8 or something like that when you like started kind of like getting into the business. What was your little 8-year-old mind thinking back then? Did you know that you really wanted to have a full career like what you kind of created? Or was it just, this is fun and I like it? So like, what were you thinking to even like get started?
Thanks so much. What a great question, first of all, because it's something that still to this day blows my mind when I think about it, because I think back to that age. I believe I started in plays when I was around 6, 7, 8 years old. I think my first performance, I was a tree or something, right? But then I went to this school and I played Good King Wenceslas in the play. I think that was like second grade. You know, I got the star role. I don't know how that happened. I was like 8 or whatever. I don't know where it comes from, but I've always had a passion for acting ever since I was the tree, right? I don't know how it snowballed like that. I always loved watching movies. One of my favorite pastimes with my father and I is going to the movie theater. I think the first time when I kind of realized I wanted to be in the movies was when I saw Terminator 2 in the movie theater. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, but here you have Edward Furlong on the back of a mini bike hacking into ATM machines, listening to Guns N' Roses. And I was like, that is what I want to do, you know, right there. You know, fortunately for me, when I was about 13, I had the opportunity to get a talent agent. Everything happened just very naturally. And again, to that point, I did 3 auditions. My third audition was a Warner Brothers Christmas movie, Jack Frost, and I did that when I was 13. So that kind of got the ball rolling. So it was a love for acting within the theater when I was a kid, and then just kind of lucking into it. I don't know. I'm just very grateful. I feel very blessed, and I get to do what I love.
Well, what's so great is, I don't know if you've seen The Fabelmans, but it reminds me of that. There's a portion in the film where like Steven Spielberg, or a younger Steven Spielberg, goes to see his first movie. It's like the very beginning of the film. Like he goes in there and just something just happens where like he just walks out and like that's it. He doesn't know what it is. He wants to play with things. He wants to reenact it. It's not really fully put together what he's actually doing, which is to want to be in the film. Like, and the same thing happened to me. Like my first movie, I just went in and I was like, I want to write about this. Like I want to do this. And I started really young too. I guess it's just like this weird thing. Like we just walk in and you see this like magical thing. And then what guy wouldn't, by the way? That's a great movie to go into and watch it and not want to like have that be like something you want to do for your life.
But... Oh, Terminator 2? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of course. That's like that's like going to see like, a John Wayne movie. Like who wouldn't want to like walk out and be like, I want to be a cowboy. Like I want to go like, do what he's doing. That's a great first film. But it must be like, just like a weird magic thing. Like you just walk in and you just know. You just know that's what you want to do.
I don't know where it comes from, but I'm happy to say it's magic, I don't need to know where that comes from. All I know is that, when I'm in front of the camera, when I'm breaking down a character, when I'm reading a new script that's just very exciting, it's ineffable sometimes to explain like the excitement and the joy that I feel and the joy of bringing, characters to life. Lately, I've started to classify it, or couple years, just as like a math equation. I really like just to like figure out the character, break it all down. And it really is a craft of nuances, acting. And for some reason, it's the equation that I like to solve, or try new things. And just the slightest details, it's a game of millimeters, just like golf or, to me, it's a game. It's really fun to break it down.
It's so funny you should say that because you've been in Bird Box, and I'm going off of the top of my head because I've seen so many things. Proven Innocent, The Island. I mean, like I could like go on, and every one of these characters could not be more different. All characters do have a thread of humanity, right? So there is a similarity, somewhat in everybody's work, but you look different, you walk different, you hold yourself different, you talk different, right? Like you react different. So all of these things are kind of probably the nuances that you're like mentioning that you do. So in every single thing that I've seen you in, I always have like for a second I always go, "Is that Taylor?" And like it takes me like a minute. I go, "Oh my god, it is him." It just doesn't look like you. It just doesn't come off like that. So for those projects, when you're jumping, like when you're playing Jace in Bird Box, and then you're jumping to like Liam in Animal Kingdom, and all of those kind of things, are you looking at certain things, like you said, to break down to go, okay, he walks differently. This one talks differently. This is how I'm going to play him. Is that how you do it? Or does it come out when you're in front of the camera and you do a little prep? How do you kind of like prepare for all that?
Thanks. And again, great question. And thank you for saying that. So nice of you to say that about the different characters I played. Yeah, Bird Box, that's kind of bittersweet for me. I think I was in the movie for about 30 seconds.
I saw you.
um, yeah, so someone was
I
like,
saw
"Were you
you.
in Bird Box?" And I was like, "Yes, I was." You didn't blink. You're the one who didn't blink, so you did see me. No, but when it comes to characters and the different characters I've played, I mean, prep is key. Breaking down the character, breaking down, what the character wants, what the character doesn't want, what victory looks like for the character, what happens when the character doesn't get, and answering all these questions that the audience will never know the answer to. They'll never see the answer to, but you knowing those questions and the answers, that has to happen before every character. And then when you get there, and you'll hear this from tons of other actors, but you do all your prep, and then when you get in front of the camera, you let it go, and that's when you start playing. You've done all the prep work, so now you get to play. You get to have fun. You get to start trying these new things out. You're like, oh, I'll tweak it a little bit here. I'll tweak it on this line, or I'll put some different understanding behind here. You can see I'm already starting to be like a mad scientist as I'm, trying to explain
Right.
this. In fact, my prep has gone to a different level since getting Mayor of Kingstown. I will break down the character in human form, but then I will also break down the character in animal form. I'll assign an
Really?
animal to
Okay.
every character that I've had, and because there's something obviously very primal about human beings, and to know the answers to the primal questions about the character is, I think, really takes character and performances to the next level. Absolutely.
Obviously there's directors, there's other actors, there's things that happen that is not in a controlled environment when you're filming. So does that also change too? Because you can prep to an extent, right? You have this freedom where you get on, in front of the camera, but then there's these other variables, right? Like these other actors you're working with where you don't know what they prepped, you don't know what their setup is, how are they going to deliver a line, and they kind of throw it at you. Does that change how you start internalizing things in between takes? Are you like, oh, wait, he said this, maybe my character's thinking that? Like, so is it just ever evolving, like as you're doing a project?
Absolutely. And you have to stay flexible. In fact, one story to kind of go off with, I think one of the first scenes for the first season of Kingstown, we had just gone through COVID. I hadn't worked in a little while. I think the last thing I had done was the Animal Kingdom stint. And I wasn't being flexible. And I wasn't getting the performance I wanted, and I could tell I wasn't delivering the performance that the other people wanted, the director wanted. And I went up and I asked him, I was like, what can I do differently here? And he goes, listen, you've been in a controlled environment, get kind of giving auditions, and you're able to, control the audition. But when you get here, and you can't forget this, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to play. And so when somebody throws that ball at you, all the prep that you've done and all the prep that I had done, I was just so nervous. You're able to, hit the ball back. Like, just think of tennis, you're just like, they hit it one way, they come back at you, they try to, ace you or hit it on the line and, fake you out. And that's why prep is key, because if somebody does just throw a curveball at you, just based on their own prep, I'm not saying there's any like malicious intent or anything behind any of that sometimes, which is crazy, but it happens.
Listen, it's acting.
Yeah. That's why you have to be prepped. That's why you have to know all those answers to those questions that nobody else is asking.
So let's get to Kyle. What should we expect? This was like a new show. It was very different than Taylor Sheridan, who now everybody knows his name. It was very different from his style. It was a very different kind of spin-off type of show, but yet it still had his fingerprints on it. It was just like a very different like movement. So I think a lot of us were super excited to see like, where is this going to go? It was so good, season 1. So for you, for the character arc, I mean, to the point where we meet him and he's kind of resentful and upset and like a little mad at kind of the positions that he's being put in, which a lot of times are like more, I mean, it's Mayor of Kingstown. A lot of times it's morally gray, right? The stuff that he's put in through to when you fast forward to that last episode, which, oh my gosh, like was so good with you guys stuck in the prison. I mean, if you watch that first episode and how like tough he is and upset he is and things like that, and you go all the way through this journey with him, and then you see him in that last episode, how do you not feel for this guy that's been put through this horrible situation? So for you, what was that like doing that? Because even that last episode, there's like hundreds of extras. There's a million people in that episode. There's bombs going off and people are shooting at people. And your character, if people haven't seen it, hopefully, spoiler alert, but you're kind of stuck in the prison, almost like helpless. So how did you kind of get that arc? How'd you build it? And then what did you work on in that last episode? Because, oh my God, was I like, I was biting every nail off to make sure you were getting out of there.
Yeah, well, the great thing about season one is that we had all 10 scripts before we even started shooting. So I was able to craft with my coaches like different, the different layers and the different things that Kyle goes through. And to be able to have those last couple episodes and what he's going through really hit. It was like, okay, we see where the end mark is for him for season one. So how do we, get people to love this guy? How do we, make them feel something at the end for you? How do we get them on your side? And it's pretty easy to do because Taylor had just written such a fantastic arc for Kyle that all I really needed to do was do that prep, understand what he's going through, understand what he needs to go through. Why is Kyle even in the show? Why is Kyle relevant? And I decided on what, I was really working on. There's just such a human quality in such a dismal town. You want to have like a little piece of hope, somebody that you're rooting for. And Kyle still has an opportunity to get out. He still has an opportunity to make something of himself before this town completely obliterates his life. We wanted to heighten that up and, show those stakes and perform those stakes properly. And I think, thank you so much for saying that you're feeling something because that's what we were going for.
Yes, that was total. And like, it sounds terrible. It's not like we would care less if he was single, but what makes it worse is that he's a father and he's
Sure.
struggling in the whole season. He's struggling between, taking care of like one half of his family, right? And then taking care of the family that he created. And it was like, how do I balance these two things? And how do I do it like in a proper way? And he feels like he's failing, right? And his mom's kind of like yelling at him, like, you're not doing well. Like, you need to work this out. And he's starting to work it out and saying he's going to spend more time and try to make those shifts happen, and then gets kind of stuck in this prison. So for you, you're married, you have kids. So like for like family wise, did you bring any of that into it? Because I'm assuming while he's stuck there, which was hours, you're thinking everything, right? Like I might not see my kids, I might not see my family, I might not see, my wife's pregnant, like all of these things on the show. So is that what you like put into? Because those were like emotional and people don't realize you film those hours and hours and hours. I mean, so like you're like emotionally drained, I'm sure, filming.
Oh yeah, like out of sequence, hours and hours, and having to like stay in that heightened emotional state of going through very traumatic events. The thing about those two specific episodes in the finale was that everybody else seemed to be kind of holding together. Mike had his, Mike knew he needed to get in there. Ian, played by Hugh Dillon, he's so hardcore. He was just, he could just man up and pull it together. Mom's freaking out. Tracy's kind of, like they're scared. Everybody else was kind of like holding their shit together. And I thought it was fantastic that Kyle wasn't, because to me, it was like, okay, yeah, I could try to play this like the cool guy and be like, oh no, I'm just like, I'm going to pull through. But I was like, there's nothing real about that. He is expecting to be a father. He is trapped underneath the prison during a prison riot. He's a cop. I mean, you're enemy number one. They're coming to get you. Like, you're not holding your shit together. Like, I don't care who you are. If those are your circumstances, like, you're not holding your stuff together. You are in full panic mode, especially if you think there's a life outside of this that you care so deeply about. When I'm acting, and especially with Kyle, there's multiple things that he and I have in common. One of them being a family. I'm a family man. I'm the youngest of three brothers. I've had similar tragic events happen in my own life. A lot of relatable stuff that happens to Kyle that I've been through. So I was able to, pull from experience experience, but I'm never trying to like have a cathartic experience. I'm never trying to like
Mhm.
go through. I'm never trying to go through therapy with my characters, right? But it is helpful to kind of like know where somebody's coming from and having had similar thoughts and shit that he's had to go through. Yeah, I just headed back to what I had to do to pull that together. She's like, "You, this is your job. This is what you're going through. We're gonna break for lunch at 1 p.m. But and then after that, you're really gonna have to turn it on. So don't eat like too much steak and potatoes. All right, and there you go."
I know, but it's so crazy to me because that's what people don't realize is like there's breaks, there's out of order filming, there's hours at a time. So it's like we see it and it looks so seamless and put together and it's like, oh, this feels like it's happening in real time. But for you guys, it takes place over the course of like, X amount of days of filming. So I don't know how you did it. I have no idea how you did it, but it was so emotional. And, all I wanted, I was like, I felt like the one thing maybe in the back of his mind, this could just be me, is that his brother's going to come in there, that someone might possibly save him, that he might not necessarily get stuck there. And I think everybody puts that pressure on him because the whole family's going, it's going to be okay because he's going in. He's going to fix
Yeah,
it. He's going to get his brother out. And he's going in going, listen, if I die, I die, but my brother's not going to die. Like, so he's going
yeah.
in to make sure your character gets out.
Oh, I
So
love your breakdown of it. It's giving me chills. Yeah, yeah, yes.
I love it
See,
so much.
this
I
is
told you.
Mayor of Kingstown is my favorite show. Like, it's not like I just like to be in it. It's I like to watch it. It's just gritty. It's real. It's raw. There's something about Taylor's writing that it's not formulaic, yet it follows a formula. Do you know what I'm saying? And he really lets you sit with the characters and see what's going on with the characters. Whereas other shows, they're just kind of just pushing you through and getting you through the plot line. But you really
Mhm.
get to know these people in Kingstown. You really get to care about them, and you get to go on journeys, in this show that in other shows, they wouldn't even, show that part of the story. So
Right.
that's what I find so interesting and what I love about Taylor's writing in this show
Yeah, well, there's just like beautiful freedom, right? Like, so
very
you
much.
have this like space to, yes, you have to get, obviously A to B to C, right? Like, you have to get that done. There's lines given to you, but there seems to be a freedom with his work. So it's almost like as you, like for actors, when I watch you guys, it's like next level because of the comfortability, because you can be as raw as you want to be. And because there is moments where we're filming and we see your character, and it is quiet and the shot isn't going away. Like we're on you, we're in this space where we can't see anything, he can't see anything, so we're like
Yeah.
put in the scenario he's in. On other shows, you're correct, it would cut away in 30 seconds. Oh, everything's fine,
Yeah.
please come in, and the riot's over. It's not how this works. Like we follow each character, and you see how bad it's getting and how much worse it's getting, and we're just with you. We're with you to the ride, to seeing you walk out. I mean, like when you
Yeah.
walked out, I'm not going to lie, I was like, and then I felt like I went through a whole like emotional thing because when you walked out and like like the kind of ends playing, and I was just going, oh my gosh, what is going to happen to him? Because how would I don't even know how I would process that mentally. Like you're a cop, you prep, like your character's a cop, he preps for everything. Nobody could prep for that. I mean, to be stuck
No.
like that and have to deal with that. So I love the scene when like at the very end of the show when you are walking out and you guys are like arm in arm and like you're coming out, and the first thing you do is like run to your family and like your mom's there, and like, and it's just one of those moments where I just went like, first I went thank God because I was nervous. I was like, please don't kill Taylor. That was
I
very
was like, how many brothers are you gonna kill season one? You know what I mean? You're gonna kill.
I know, I was nervous, but when I saw you come out, it was like you didn't come out in a way I feel like other shows might have done, which was, it's cool, I'm all right, don't worry, I don't want to worry my mom. You came out and it was like, I'm a little broken, like from what just happened. And it was honest, it was truthful, and it's so rare to see that on TV. And we see you, and again, we didn't like get a quick shot. It was, we follow you, like walk over, we follow you, kind of embrace everyone and be emotional. So you can't help but be emotional in that finale.
Yeah.
So how is that to have that freedom given to you and that space to even act without talking? Like I don't think there's many words that are said towards that last like 2 minutes when we see you kind of come out, but it's emotional.
Yeah, I'll go back to like, it's a game of nuances. And to be able to create with, the caliber of people that make up Kingstown, from Taylor writing and directing to Hugh Dillon and, Stephen Kay, who directed that finale. It's like really got to trust your people. But I do know this, Taylor Sheridan's team, they're a winning team and they want great television. You can tell by their track record that you're in good hands. And so therefore you trust the people, as an actor, as an artist, me, like, I trust the players that I'm with because I know that they're bringing their A game. So I have to bring my A game. And then I know that it'll be in good hands to make the edit. I know that they'll pick the right, nuances to tell the story the way that they want to tell the story. And my job is just to give them a bunch of different ways of how it would happen. And they cut it together and they tell the story they want to tell.
It's so funny. You're such an actor because I interview actors all the time. It's not like I compliment everybody all the time or I'll bring up like, and what's so funny is I find that most actors, I think we all do this because I do it too, brush off a compliment, right? So like instead of being like, and which I understand because there's a whole team, but it wouldn't work if you didn't work. So like, I know it's hard for actors to be like, yeah, like I was good at that scene. Like, nobody says that because, you're just, it's very like self-deprecating, this industry. Like
I
I'm
accept.
telling
I
you, you
accept.
accept it? Because I'm telling you, I think if they had put anybody else in there, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. The emotion, the level that you got it to, and the level that you got it to in the last 2 minutes when you walk out wouldn't have worked if it was any other character on the show but you. And I think it's because of the amount of work that you did to make that happen. I just want to like congratulate you because literally I was like, I mean, Taylor was going to hear from me. I was going to send angry letters if you were not making it out. So like I was very concerned, but I was just so happy to see him walk out of there. So
I accept. Thank you.
good. Because I know everyone kind of like hates the compliment thing, but I mean, you were just so good in the show. I want to quickly ask you, people haven't seen the show yet. It comes out on the 15th. So where is Kyle when we come back after this break and what has happened to him?
We actually pick up about 3 to 4 weeks after the prison riot. So if there's fresh wounds, what I can say is that, remember I said, there was a way to play the tough guy. There's always a trap to like, oh, I want to, play the tough guy. But, I chose a more emotional, more what I feel was a real approach to what this guy was going through and what happens in the prison and how it makes it out and all the feelings. But now it's about 3 to 4 weeks later and he's thinking about how he reacted in there. And he's really, really hard on himself. He is filled with guilt. He's filled with shame and he doesn't know what to do with that. He doesn't know how to process those feelings. And so when we pick up, Kyle has taken that job with the troopers and he's really trying to find answers. He's really trying to make it up to himself because he disappointed himself in his reaction. And I'm just so glad that that's the way it was played because now Kyle has somewhere to go in season 2. He's starting off and he is just running as fast as he can, just trying to allow himself back into the human race. He's put himself in the penalty box and his behavior is very erratic. He's trying to make sense of everything because the fact of the matter is that Kyle has been a good soldier all his life, the youngest of all the brothers, and he has done what people have told him. They're like, hey, you be a cop. So he's like, okay, I'm going to be a cop, take this job, be a good person. So he's taking all these things. And you know what? It's gotten to him to this point where he just doesn't even know who he is. He's like, I've done all these things and yet I feel empty. Yet I feel, such discomfort. Like, what am I going to do? So we pick up season 2 and he's just running, trying to, find answers that are really hard to find. Like, who are you? If you're not everything everybody's told you are, then what the hell? So he's taking matters into his own hands. He's acting crazy. It was a fantastic arc to play, season 2, and I can't wait for everybody to watch it.
Do you think he is angry at the fact that he was put in there at all? Do you think he holds any resentment that he was kind of caught up in it? Or do you think it's more of just solely reactionary based off of his kind of behavior while he was in it?
I think he's angry at himself. It was an accident. I mean, if you look at it objectively, he was in there, he was going to do a prison transfer, and then all hell broke loose. And, he had to, with the help of Hugh Dillon's character, Ian, they had to survive. So they had to do what they survived. But everybody in life perceives things differently. And so what we chose, or what I chose, I say we, and I'm talking about my coach, talking about all this prep, is that he's just in a really, really dark place because he's so pissed off at himself because he feels that he failed in so many different areas. And when you feel like you fail, you start going, well, I want to win. So you try to win here, but then you fail. You try to win here, you fail, you fail. So he's just like in this, just this very hectic mindset when we pick up, this season. He's going to try to make it through.
I'm super excited because I think that's really interesting because his other brothers, not necessarily told what to do, kind of, and if they were, they kind of went the complete opposite. One obviously right away in the pilot doesn't do well, but his other brother is kind of in a mix of stuff, and I don't know if he really wanted that job either, to have to deal with trying to keep the peace and all the stress and of the town and kind of everyone looking to him for everything. Whereas, Kyle had somewhat of a moral code. Like, yes, do you bend it for family? Of course you're going to do all of that. But now what do you do when that moral code is like in question? So now is it just like you just go crazy and you just start like, reaching for straws, reaching for anything to try to move forward? Or, are we going to see him kind of find himself back again and circle back and realize like he is a good person and it's okay that happened and it's normal to react that way? And so you have like this whole season to kind of play with that. So I'm so excited to see.
You hit it on the head right there. It's going to be all of that, a mixed bag of emotions when you're watching. I think people, if they're watching Kyle, I think they're going to sympathize with him. They're going to hate him. They're going to judge him. They may be with him. I don't know. There was a lot to play. I think that the viewers are going to be very satisfied with what happens this season.
You also have just another show, limited series, that's called
Griselda.
Talk to me a little bit about that because that's very different. Talk about like 180. Like that's a completely different story and character. So what was that like for you? Was it nice to have like a little bit of a break, play someone a little lighter? Like what was that like for you?
That was another one of those magical characters that I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but that materialized. I remember getting the audition and it was Griselda Blanco. I know the story. She's the biggest drug queen pin ever, to come out of Colombia and Miami in the late 70s to 80s. It was directed by Andres Baiz, who did a bunch of Narcos Mexico,
Yep.
and that's one of my favorite shows, Narcos Mexico. And I remember in January 2022, I was like, this is my favorite show. Like this is a fantastic show. And I kept seeing Andreas's name. I was like, Andres Baiz, like that's a guy I want to work with. And then a couple months later, I get this audition. It's like directed by Andres Baiz. I was like, yes, yes. And it just so happened that the showrunner was Ingrid Escajeda, who's a friend of mine from years ago. And so I did the audition, and a week later they said, okay, Taylor, here you go. It just materialized just magnificently in my favor because, and again, it's so important to work with A-plus teams, and Andres and Ingrid and all the producers on Griselda, who also were producers on Narcos Mexico. They're just winners. They're just, they know how to make great television. And so I feel so blessed and so grateful to have worked on that show. I did 2 out of the 6 episodes, but it was a fantastic arc with a young upcoming actress, Juliana then Martinez, and she's fantastic. And all my stuff was with her. And the story is so fascinating because it's about this female detective who brings down the world's most infamous female drug queen pin. I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and I know Andreas and Ingrid are just going to make it just phenomenal.
I was like, oh, like he should be in more episodes, but I know when we see it, like it's going to be so good.
The perfect amount. It really is the perfect amount. It's like I play a sleazy Miami cop in the late 70s with bad mustache and a polyester suit and a bad attitude, and it was great. And the chemistry with Juliana felt right, and I think she's fantastic. She's going to pop off this, no doubt. And of course, Sophia is just, I'm looking forward to seeing what she has done with that. I've only seen pictures of what she looks like and the depths that she went to. It's going to be phenomenal for everybody involved.
And then what about Riptide? So are you, I don't know if you could
Pending. It's totally pending. Don't know
okay,
what's
so we
up
don't
with
know
that
anything
yet.
yet. But you
No,
are
no.
still like attached to it, so it's still possible to be.
Yeah, I was talking with Sean.
Okay, good. So that's still moving forward.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I should call him, or he should call me, or we'll talk.
I wanted to ask you too, what is it like? So now looking back, you started super young, not really knowing what, where it would go, right? You're 8 years old. You're kind of like, you're playing a tree. We start with you playing a tree. okay,
Right.
fast
Playing the drink.
forward, you have worked with Academy Award winners, you've worked with Academy nominees, you've worked with like the biggest names in Hollywood. You're on one of the biggest shows known to man. You're literally being pulled. I feel like everybody wants you on everything. So,
Wow. Wow. It sounds
so
so crazy when you say it like that. I'm like, oh shit,
but
I am.
it's
Wow.
true, like, when you look back, it's not
Yeah.
crazy. You've worked with, like, I
Yeah.
mean, so many. Like, if you look at everybody that you worked with, it's like a list of, like,
Yeah.
freaking award after award Tony winners and
It is.
yeah,
Yeah. It
it's
is
crazy.
crazy.
So
Wow.
what would you say if you could go back to your 8-year-old tree? What would
Yeah.
you tell him? And what would you say now looking back that you're older and that you've done all of these amazing projects and that, we all want like Emmys for the show, we all want awards for the show, we want you to get awards for the show. So I mean like you're in like this straight up, you're heading over the cliff, my friend. I'm telling you, you're going to have
Right.
awards coming your way. But what would you say to like your 8-year-old tree self?
It's something that I've had to say to myself, which is what I said to myself right before Kingstown took off. When you're an actor, when you're an artist, there's a lot of struggle that goes on. I mean, being an artist, right? Whether you're a singer, a painter, I mean, you're always just trying to get to this crossroads of creativity and magic, bringing what you're feeling inside and bringing it to life. And the industry can be, a roller coaster. I mean, the ups are fantastic, but I tell you, the downs are hard. When you don't work for
Yeah.
2 years and you start questioning yourself, like, is this even the right thing to do? Like, who am I? Like, I love being an actor, but I haven't worked in 2 years. I mean, is Hollywood trying to tell me something? I just don't know. I had told myself leading up to Kingstown, I was preparing to make a shift. I was going to be like, okay, you know what? I've had 25 years. It's been great, but things really aren't working out the way that I thought they were. So I was planning to make a career shift. But then Kingstown came along and I was like, okay, if this is going to be the one, this is going to be the one because it's Taylor Sheridan, the man I want to work with. It's Jeremy Renner, one of my favorite actors. And like, nobody can tell me that I can't play Renner's brother. You know what I mean? Like you can't say, hey, nah, he doesn't look like Renner. Like-minded individuals. We share similar values. I just think he's such a fantastic person and so talented too, and just cool as hell. But I will say this, I would have told my 8-year-old self this: acting is a part of your life. It's not your life. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as an actor, you can get so obsessed with if you're working, if you can tell the story. And so what will happen, what I've heard to it referred to as missing tile syndrome. And it can be 95% of your life is awesome. And yet 5% of your life, let's just call acting or working, is not happening. And you just focus. You can have this beautiful mosaic. 95% of it's done. There's one little piece missing, and that's the only piece that you can focus on, and it can pollute the rest of your life. It could be this struggling actor just because you're not working, but you can't see the joys in everything else. You can't see the joys in just the health and the harmony and your friends and your family you can get. And so there was a period where I went through that, and gratitude and helping others has to take precedence overall. Like, you got to be a person first and an actor second.
It's so true because yeah, you can get focused and become very nuclear and
Mhm.
forget all these amazing things that you were blessed with, Like look at your gorgeous background and you're with your family and like all of these like beautiful things, right? And to knock
Absolutely.
yourself, because of a work thing. It's hard because it's the industry, but it's a great way
Yeah.
to kind of keep reminding yourself to not let that overtake you.
And so, I came to that, I had to go through some struggles and not working for a while and stuff. But in doing that, I was able to, find that out about myself. And now, and as soon as I became grateful for everything else in my life and truly grateful,
Mhm.
that's when things at work started getting better. It's a trip.
I'm so happy to talk with you. Like I said, I've seen you in so many things, but I think Mayor of Kingstown was next level. I'm not joking when I think you're on that cliff. I just think so many things are coming your way because you deserve it, because of the way that you act, the way that you are as a human being, just the way this cast is. You're all so human and down to earth and just happy and just want to do the best that you can do. And like, what else can you ask for?
Everybody's so grateful to be on the show. Like, we see how, special this moment is. We see this creative freedom that you don't usually get with a lot of projects that you're on. And so everyone is really, really grateful to be there. I know. And they just keep bringing their A game. It's so fantastic to be a part of such a great cast.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Taylor Henley talk about what you can expect on season 2 of Mayor of Kingstown. The show premieres on January 15th on Paramount Plus, and you can also stream it on Prime Video and the Roku channel. So make sure you go and check it out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.